Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. I thank everyone for joining us this afternoon. As we discussed in my first meeting with the group, that the goal is to have meaningful conversation. There's so much to do, and part of the challenges for a recovery officer, in my opinion, is to prioritize, help focus, and help mobilize. So again, there's so much to do, and potentially everything could have an impact. So deciphering what to do next in some cases is really going to be challenging, and that's why the advisory committee, one of the reasons why they were convened. There are appointees, as we discussed last meeting, and what you tell me is really important, and I will take note of that, and that will factor into the decisions and recommendations that are made moving forward. So topics revisited as per the document that Martha kindly put together for us. Just want to assure you that we are in compliance. The January 2025 Chief Recovery Officer Report, it has been posted on our website, and that also includes a posting of our last meeting, January 29th. The agenda and the video is archived, and it is there. Additionally, the January 2025 monthly report was submitted to PDE. So we are required to follow sunshine. The agendas have to be publicly released in advance. We invite anybody to join us. I am again in the superintendent's office here at Sto-Rox School District. The doors are unlocked. Anybody from the public could join us, and certainly they can tune in virtually. I also want to just bring up that the 25-26 budget, the JMA folks, particularly Chad Agnew, gave us a preview of what that looks like February 13th. And we are really trying to get into a cycle and create tickler files where we know seasonally what things we should be working on and action that should be taken according to that. Being behind it is not a good place to be. Always playing catch up. It's not healthy for the organization. And so we are trying to create some semblance of a calendar. And so I was glad that Chad was able to do that. Just a reminder again, one of the unfortunate pieces to financial recovery is that there is an obligation to raise taxes minimally to the index unless the recovery officer makes an alternate recommendation of no increase or less. Because there's so many unknowns, I will reiterate and continue to reiterate that really that's the most responsible position to take at this point. Also, I want to make clear that the $2 million that the district received in 24-25 empowerment funds, those dollars through board action are going to be converted to an assigned fund balance. Chad has told me most recently they're looking at interest rates. It will be either FNB or it'll be PSLF. Chad, have you made a determination on which account will hold those?
Those will be transferred into the PSDLAF account. We get a little bit better interest rate on there. It's about 0.6, 0.7% percentage points higher than the FNB account.
Thank you for sharing it. Again, that language is represented in the financial recovery plan about capitalizing on opportunities to earn interest when money has been set aside and not intended to be used immediately. We also wanted to bring up the PFM Sto-Rox School District Reconfiguration Study. I briefly mentioned it in the last meeting, and the next day, one of the appointees to our committee here asked, could there be more information about that? That individual was interested in learning more. So consequently, I've asked Stephen Ramirez and Hannah Friedrich from PFM to present to us, to talk to us about the methodology and what that study was about. So I am going to turn the mic over to Stephen and or Hannah.
Great. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Rabel. Hello, Dr. Sofa, board members, and community members. My name is Stephen Ramirez. I'm the director of the K-12 schools team at PFM, and PFM provides technical support for school districts in financial recovery and Sto-Rox, and our history of Sto-Rox goes back many years. I want to introduce also my colleague Hannah Friedrich, who will be speaking in a moment as well, and who together we collaborate and work on and support Sto-Rox on a number of different pieces. So Hannah, I'm wondering, could you Dr. Rabel, can you let Hannah share? We put together just a couple of slides to kind of go over our methodology.
Could do that.
That'll be Martha.
Or Martha, thank you.
Thank you.
Hannah should be able to share.
Can y'all see that?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you very much. So So my understanding is that you all have received the report or have access to the report at this point. And tonight we're going to talk a little bit around how we went around completing
Stephen,
this. So,
if I could interrupt, I have not released that. That will be part of the agenda when we
got it. Okay, excellent. Thank you. Thanks for that clarification. Well, tonight what we'll be able to do is contextualize specifically what the request was, and what we'll do is we'll kind of preview the methodology that we did in order to go through the different sections that we looked into. So just for some background on the study and the request, late October, early November, we received the request from the previous CRO and previous superintendent, supported through the board, to look at the proposed reconfiguration study from a financial and operational perspective. And essentially, if the district were supposed to, were to move from the current configuration, which has 3 sites, 3 buildings, the K-3 primary center, the 4-6 elementary school, and the 7-12 juniors seniors high school, and if they were to move towards the more traditional K-5 elementary school, the 6-8 middle school, and a 9-12 high school, what would some of the financial and operational impacts be that we should really consider in the moves? We took a lens of this as looking at everything from the financial, the staffing, operational, enrollment lens, and so we'll go through some of that work here today. What we did to dig into that. One of the things that we did want to make clear that we tried to take the work as deep as we could, but some of the, let's say, what we've done is not necessarily the final piece of work that would be able to that would lead to implementation, because some of these decisions, some of these impacts are so nuanced, and we'll get into some of that a little bit in a bit. So Hannah, let's head over to the next slide, and I will hand it over to you as well.
Sounds good. So as Stephen mentioned, we took a lens oriented in financial and operational areas. The goal here was really understanding and being able to shed light on the question of feasibility. So we chose a couple of major financial and operational areas here for the larger report and to kind of run through with you all today. I also wanted to kind of clarify too that a lot of so we looked at a couple of things: physical space, staffing, transportation, and then a couple of other more minor areas. And I just wanted to, again, point out that these are areas that are already very, very major budgetary areas. So that was part of our intent here too, was if the district were to move forward with a reconfiguration, understanding the impact on those already major budgetary areas would be a critical component to that process. But to start here, building capacity, I kind of see this as one of the variables that is first and foremost to understanding feasibility. And here I'm going to walk you through at a pretty high level how we went about understanding this. We know through conversations with the district leadership that construction or any kind of other additions is kind of not on the table at this point. And so really being able to understand what the current space is in the district, what is available, what is not available, and how a reconfigured student body would or could be accommodated by existing facilities is really what we're getting at in this section. The methodology that we used to attack this question, we used a variety of analyses. We looked at building floor plans, master schedules for each of the buildings, and even performed some building walkthroughs to really get a good grip on how space is being used, what space is there, what's being underutilized, and what's even in some cases vacant. We used the information gathered in those analyses to then allocate those spaces across each sort of grade level, or in the middle school, you could call it a cohort. Our analysis was pretty centered around the elementary school, just because the introduction of 2 additional grade levels into the building would be a challenge. So if if my language is kind of oriented towards grade levels, that's sort of why. So yes, we reallocated that available space that we identified across our estimated enrollment counts for 25-26 next school year. And we also used some information that we had from the teacher's contract regarding classroom max capacities. We used 85% of those classroom max capacities as our target for students per room per grade. What we did, or what we found as a result of this analysis at each of the buildings, was that yes, there is adequate classroom space for the reconfigured student population, but to get to that point, there would be some manipulation of current classroom functions required. One kind of example of this is in the current primary center or proposed elementary school. There were some classrooms being used as offices, classrooms being used as storage, and it is very, very likely that those classrooms would need to be repurposed to fit more of an instructional, true classroom setup. And there would very likely be some costs associated with those transitions of space. Some other considerations, again, Stephen mentioned that this isn't the final tell-all. This isn't aimed at implementation. Our analysis focused on what you could call a very generic classroom instructional space. We did not really get into any of those more shared spaces in each building, like an art room, a music room, a cafeteria. Those really understanding the capacity of those spaces for additional students or even a different student body, call it, would be critical. Those would be some more intense logistical questions you'd need to answer. Another is the appropriateness of the facilities for the ages of the students. An example of this might be maybe a classroom in the upper elementary would need to be retrofitted to be able to accommodate chemistry equipment, something like that. The changing age of the building would be a factor. Declining enrollment is one of the factors we highlighted in our report. The district has experienced a couple of consecutive years here of declining enrollment, and we found that at least in the high school, this would be a really important factor to consider, just the implications of a potentially growingly vacant building, and at the same time, how the district would manage its plan to continue to invest in a very old, dated building, given the potential for growing vacancy there. And then the last factor here having to do with capacity is extracurriculars. There were some efficiencies realized having the 7th and 8th graders on the high school campus, or there are currently. They have access to athletics and other sort of after-school programs, and the district would have to consider: does it have a policy? Would it have the capacity to offer those in the new proposed middle school? Would it transport its students to the high school? Answering all those questions would add to the logistics. Some of the other factors we got into include staffing. Similar approach here to answering the question of building capacity. Here we took a look at the district's staffing roster, but more specifically, its teaching staff roster. And by taking a close look at teacher certifications, we were able to kind of test allocating staff across each of the new reconfigured buildings.
And Hannah, let me jump in right here on the staffing piece, because I think this was one of the pieces that I think would be extremely critical in fleshing out much deeper. So when we answered at a high level, the staff that you have today, could you just transfer and move folks over into this proposed reconfiguration, and would it work? And we found that at the proposed elementary school, theoretically, yes, you could move staff over because of the semi-departmentalized instructional model that's currently in the upper elementary school. You can transition some of those folks over into the future K-5 elementary school, and it could work. But we did highlight some nuance and some challenges that you would likely encounter at the 7 to 12 or the middle to high school level. Currently, there's in the current junior senior high school grades 7 and 12, you have teaching efficiencies already in place. We found that there were over 30 current staff members who teach at least one section of 7th and 8th grade classrooms. And if you were to move the 7th and 8th grade students across, we would need to figure out which one of those staff would move with those students. And then we would have to look at the licensure, the grade and content level pieces associated with those. And that would be in addition to just personal choice, if folks would even be amenable to the move. So all this to say, from the staffing perspective, we think that it would probably require a much greater level of lift in order to really answer that question around could the current staff fit or move along into the proposed reconfiguration. So we left in the study a few points and recommendations on how to move forward there. So,
Thanks, Stephen. Our next big area that we dove into was transportation. Currently, the district provides transportation for all students going to the Hill, so the primary center, the upper elementary school, and in addition to some select high schoolers. But with the addition of 2 grade levels going to the Hill, the district would need to transport, over 100 additional students. And so the way that we went about this was we took a look at some data on the district's bus routes and the bus utilization. So are the seats on each bus full on average? Are there vacant seats? To really get at that question of capacity for those 100 plus students. And through this analysis, we found that yes, there is capacity for the additional 2 grade levels on the district's current fleet of transportation. This could kind of be accomplished in a couple of different ways, but likely would involve some kind of manipulation of the current routes and runs. And if those things were not possible, it is a possibility that there would be some additional contracting needed. Our report highlights that at least 2 buses would be needed if we couldn't fit those additional students on the current fleet. Some of the other considerations that we highlighted in our analysis for transportation was the possibility of needing to modify bell schedules, add runs for those. I know I mentioned the potential of transporting middle schoolers to the high school for extracurriculars. That might introduce new costs. And another more policy-oriented consideration that we flagged was just the logistics of having an 8th grader and a kindergartner on the same bus. Is that going to pose a challenge for any reason? Stephen, anything more on transportation?
No, I think I'll mention these other areas and then I'll open it up for questions that we can answer if that's okay, Dr. Abel. Is that all right?
Yes.
So, yep. The last 2 things that I'll just mention briefly that we did look into, we did talk a little bit around and talk about the internal capacity issue. There are formal processes required by the Pennsylvania Department of Education, required when reconfiguring a school district, that would need to be steps that would need to be followed in order to move forward with the reconfiguration. Additionally, the planning, the logistics, the task forces, the engagement, the notifications, the general lift of all this work, I think is one of the considerations that I think should not be overlooked. Secondly, when budgeting for such a new environment, you should expect the unexpected, and having to plan for unplanned for incidentals is a likely scenario, and so the potential risk of this, understanding the financial position for the district, is notable and worthy of a call out. And the last thing I think that I'll touch on before stopping here is around the connecting this to sort of larger trends in the districts. We see the data shows that there has been a declining enrollment in the district, and we think that that a move like this really puts a spotlight on the high school. We would be pulling out 2 additional grades and leaving that school, the school facility, which is designed for a much larger student body, in an interesting position. And so I think that would pose some longer and higher level decisions and strategy decisions that would be that need to be addressed relatively soon for the high school. And I'll also mention this other one, and we understand that the neighboring police departments were used in the prior configuration. That's also one of the things that we did hear from when speaking, connecting with folks around the reconfiguration. So in addition to community, understanding the community and staff support of the plan. So I'll stop there and open to taking any questions for now. So.
Yeah, Stephen, I just want to remark and check for some understanding, I guess, on my part too. So your focus was financial and operational. And so from this particular study, this review, it's not recommended to move forward at this time. You acknowledge that deeper research would need to be done in looking at capacity to handle the requirements that would have to be fulfilled before this would be operational. Is that right?
From an operational and financial perspective, we think that there are, the way we framed it in the report is that there would be no financial or operational advantages from this. You're not saving money. You're not becoming more efficient. You're in fact losing efficiencies that are built in. And I think that there would be some challenges in pulling off this move, especially if you're considering for fall of 25, but would require some more time and planning in order to execute effectively in accordance with PDE reconfiguration processes. Yeah.
Let me just go over 2 more points that are listed on the agenda, and then certainly anybody who's joining us this evening, you have an opportunity to ask questions if you have any or make remarks. So I made a note that we know that our local board of school directors has expressed some concerns that this study is incomplete, and there's been some interest to maybe include some more qualitative data collection, maybe stakeholder feedback and so forth. And I have advised the board and solicitor that they do have a right to ask the Department of Ed to put together such a study and to fund it at no cost to the district. But we cannot do that without the Department of Ed agreeing to do that, and they don't have to agree to that. So that may be in the future pipeline if the board and the solicitor opt to go in that direction. I also want to reference that Dr. Sofo and I had a preliminary meeting with representatives from the Department of Ed who are affiliated with the SASI, and that means Supporting America's School Infrastructure Grant Program. I don't know the status of that program at this point. It is federally funded, and the money is funneled through the Department of Ed. Certain districts were selected to participate. It's more of a consulting opportunity. They don't give dollars, but we have expressed interest on behalf of the district in learning more, and even offered to host some Penn State University engineers to visit, in particular, the middle school, high school here, to take a look at the building to see if there's something that they might recommend, some way to repurpose some of the space. We don't know, but we really wanted to kind of give them a blank slate perspective and see what they come up with. So if that reaches fruition, certainly we'll make sure that PFM is aware of that. And, knowing what the recommendation from PFM was, we have asked that Northgate accommodate a visit from our middle school, high school principals, which they graciously did, and that happened on February 12th. We were debriefed this morning, Dr. Sofo and I, about it, and there is really enthusiasm from the principals here about the possibilities, not trying to be like another district, but seeing what they are able to do with the similar enrollment resources and so forth, it really, really could serve as a catalyst for some great things. So thank you, Caroline, Dr. Johns, for allowing that visit, and we hope to continue to connect. But that may be the interim plan at this point. Look at a school within a school, do a better job managing that until the district might be in a better position to change grade levels and so forth. So I just want to add that before anybody asks questions or asks, to make comments.
Yes, I have a comment. I'm Cameron. I'm the school board president. Just two comments that I have. One, again, like I told you before, thank you all for doing this research. Definitely do appreciate it. I know we asked before for a more intrusive report. Unfortunately, I know whenever you all were doing this and coming on and getting started, some were also leaving. So I may not have come across, because of how we wanted it. But, we did. It's not that we're rejecting the report, obviously, right? It's already done. Thank you very much. But we did ask for, again, a more intrusive report, hearing from everyone, because when it comes down to it, we do have a decision to make. With the recommendations, very, very soon we have a decision to make, and that's why we asked for a more intrusive report because, I know some of the verbiage right now is being used that PFM isn't recommending it. From what I'm hearing right now, it's not that actually, unless you're about to say something right now. From what I'm hearing, that if we do it, it'll be tough. I didn't hear the word no in here just now. So from what I'm hearing is that if we do it, it'll be tough, and we have things to work on. Obviously, that's what I'm hearing. I never heard the word no. So I mean, when I'm done talking, if you don't mind clarifying that, if your stance is no, I would love to hear that. But from what I'm hearing right now is that if we do this, it'll be tough. And again, we have a decision to make here pretty soon about what direction we're going to go in. And two CROs ago, I know we're in our third CRO now, but two CROs ago, we were told that if we were to go in the same direction that we're in right now, or we were in, is that the first building to be taken away from us would be the junior and senior high school. And that's why over the past few years we were talking about this right here. Obviously it's coming to fruition now, but we've been talking about this for honestly the past two school years. Because we were told if a building is to get taken away, it would be the junior and senior high school first. And that's why we're saying, well, we rather lose 4th grade versus losing 6th grades, right? So that was the intent of our, honestly, our questions, our research, and trying to get the ball rolling. I'd rather have a K through 8 than have a K through 6. And like I said, losing 6th grades versus 4th grades, if that ever would have happened. But again, I would definitely, and if it's not going to be done by you all, I would like to have a more intrusive report done. Again, whether if it's not by you all, then by us getting the ball rolling, because we have a decision that needs to be made, here ASAP. So those are my thoughts on that. What we asked for, thank you all for giving us some, but it wasn't as intrusive as we had hoped for it to be.
Thank you, President Culver, for that, and thank you for joining tonight and commenting. I think our report makes it clear that from we set out to answer the operational and financial questions, and from those two lenses, we would recommend that you do not move forward with this. The places where we think there are substantial risks, I think, do expose the district and to some financial challenges that are unforeseen and unknown. What we do try to do in this study here is to open up what those potential areas of unknown costs could be, but they could spiral out of control. They could spiral, and I think that it is a risk, and it's one that I think it's worth understanding and being aware of before moving forward. The other thing that I will highlight is that our finding here does not stop the district and from moving forward. But what we want to do is serve to be able to provide you with all the information that you need and that the teams need in order to understand where you need to go in order to make a strong and feasible plan moving forward. I understand a lot of the the bigger questions around like the future state of the district are out there. But I do think that painting a holistic full picture view of what that 5, 10, 15-year plan might be would help to clarify the steps that need to be done today. And that could be part of the work that this recovery plan advisory committee does, or that could be done at the board level. I'm not exactly sure of the best way to do that. But and then the last point I do want to make is that I do want to highlight that there is a formal PDE process that does require multiple steps, including community engagement and a number of procedural items that need to be in place from a state perspective that would need to be approved and completed in order to ensure that funding does continue to move seamlessly towards the district from a state perspective. And I'm happy to provide those resources to the team here so that we can all be aware of what that process really entails. Yeah, I hope I addressed all your points. If I didn't, happy to answer more.
No, for sure. And thank you very much. And when we first asked for this to be done in October, November timeframe, those were some of the things that we had asked for because, we were told, hey, in the past, whenever they had did this, it was done wrong, right? So just to make it clear, right, the board, we really want the information, you know what I mean? We're not sitting here and saying, oh, we're going to do it anyways. We really want all the information so we can make an informed decision, right? And we want, again, all the information because literally whenever it was done last time, I wasn't here, but all we keep on hearing about is how it was done wrong, right? So this time, we want to do it right. You know what I mean? And when you go around the community, truth be told, a lot of the parents do not want their seventh and eighth grade and eighth grade year old kids, eighth grade kids with these high schoolers, right? So that was another big point of it. But someone got their hand raised, and I'll be quiet.
That was me, Cameron. That's exactly what I was going to say. I think it would be nice to get the stakeholders' opinions on this because, we are already deep in the community and so many people that I know that I have talked to are begging to get those children out of that building. I think I understand where all the data is coming from and where it's going, but I just think at this point, like what's best for kids, I think there's more to it than just, and I know that we need the data and we need all of that to move forward, but I don't think it should be the biggest attribute to our decision at this point.
Understood. Thank you so much, Ms. Briggs, for that. I think the going back to that late October board meeting, the language that was used in the minutes and that was conveyed from the CRO to us that really outlined the purpose of the report, limited it to the view that we've gotten through. As Dr. Rabel mentioned, we would be happy to expand it, include a lot more community engagement, and ask folks for their perspective, and that might be appropriate for us to do, but it might not be. That decision is happening at another level, but perhaps that is also work that can be spearheaded by the board to capture and to really consider what some of those strategic community informed goals might be for the future.
Okay, any other questions or comments on this topic?
Yeah, so just one more question. Do you by chance know, because we did ask for feedback and update, but we didn't get one yet. Do you by chance know an ETA of when, they might make a decision on whether they can do it or not? And only just so we can know whether we can move forward or not, and put together a plan of action from a board level versus, waiting around. Like, do we know when we might hear back about that?
Let me ask the question though. Director Culliver, have you and the solicitor sent a request to PD asking for that extended study?
Dr. Selfa was supposed to.
It has to be from the board and from the solicitor, similar to when we asked for permission for Devapar to assist with the superintendent search.
Yes, Dr. Selfo and the solicitor were supposed to do that already. But if it hasn't been done yet, then I'll do it myself. Yeah, because Stephen can't respond until that's received and PD processes it. They would authorize it through him. Yes, ma'am. We did ask for that to be done weeks ago, but we'll ask again. I'll do it.
I would double check with the solicitor to make sure, because that will start the formal process of reviewing that request.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments about this topic? Okay, thank you, everyone. We're going to move on.
Thank
New
you.
topic. Thank you. For consideration, so I reached out this afternoon to our Devapar representative, and Devapar is a subcontractor of PFM. And again, they provide technical services as long as PDE approves that, and generally they are at no cost to the district. So there are 6 respondents to date. So that means 6 people have reached out, expressed interest in being the next superintendent here long-term in the Sto-Rox School District. The guideline for the next steps, March 16, the posting is supposed to close. We know that the board has designated 3 people to represent the board in the interview process. And there will be others from the district named to participate in that as well. And as a reminder, last month I referenced that our Board of School Directors had asked this particular committee to give feedback. So I want to take some time right now, and I'm going to ask everyone who is with us this evening, please feel free. You can raise your hand, and then Martha, maybe you can help us, give us some information. What is important in terms of screening these candidates, going through the interview process? What do you think that the panel should ask? Well, I'll kick it off. I think financial.
I was going to say.
Okay, financial literacy is really important. I will tell you honestly, having gone through superintendent training, being duly certified, you don't get a whole lot of coursework on finance, and that's going to be key to the next person. Go ahead, Director Culver.
No, man, I was just going to say, this panel, is a group of literally everyone, and it's so important, that we ask you all for your input, and be fully transparent, because when we go in and sit in the room and ask these questions and, interview candidates and whatnot, we want to kind of pull from what you all were looking for, whether community member, whether, teacher, whether, district partner, anybody at all, right? We want to know what you all are looking for, because ultimately you all have to work with them as well, right? So please, if you can think of any questions to help us out, please be transparent, because we want to make sure we're bringing in the best individual that we can possible. We're not going to be perfect, but hopefully, with you all's guidance and with you all's questions, we can make it a lot better. So please be transparent, and don't be afraid to just say something out.
So I will make a suggestion. This is Leanna. I do think that the person needs to have a skill set around working with the community. I think there are a lot of community partners, and there are always people that are knocking at the door, wanting to help and to be able to discern how that fits into a budget, how that helps and supports students in the school and the community in supporting the school. So they need to have some kind of experience working actively with the community.
Thanks.
And being able to convene people very effectively.
Thank you, Leanna.
Mm-hmm.
This is Dan Rankus, Communications Specialist. And just piggybacking off of that, I'll just say from my perspective, it's a little selfish, but of course, someone who can be a strong communicator, not only within the school, but I think within the community, because this community, needs someone in that seat who can, work with the media. And when this district makes decisions in a number of areas, we need someone who can help get that message out to the public. And so that also, creates avenues for us to get our message out. So that's just my 2 cents.
Thank you, Dan. Anyone else?
I will add one additional thought, both the ability to delegate, but to still hold people accountable in their roles.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Okay, I think I've offered sufficient wait time. If you have thoughts after the meeting, please send me an email. I'd be happy to share those and include them in next steps. Dan, is there anything more from AIU Marcom that you want to talk about in terms of reviewing survey samples than how we might launch a larger survey?
I have not had a ton of time. I've been able to review the email and start thinking about it. So I don't have anything concrete to share at this point, but I do think I've looked over some of the literature that was sent, and I think we have some opportunities here to craft some questions that can really help generate that. I just need to nail that down. So I'll definitely have some things for you guys by the end of the week in terms of questions and kind of laying out that survey.
So what do you envision at this point? You're the expert on this. An online survey, a link on the website. What do you think?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
I think, we can do probably a Google form like we've done for other items in the past, but I think definitely a website article and then, a Google form. I think basically what we'd like to do is, probably hit that multiple times, leading up to, we can designate a time frame for how we want to get out there in the community and get in social media and get that information out. So I think doing that, getting it in the newsletters, definitely each of the newsletters, the 3 that we have, I think getting it in those so that the hundreds of people in the district who subscribe to those get a chance to have their say. So I think it's treating it just like a big event. Anything else we do, graduation, whatever it is, and just hammer the survey, at least once a week for a determined period of time, and also using those other channels to get the message out.
Thank you. Anyone have any feedback, comments to what Dan just said?
Thank you, Dan.
Okay, so I had hoped to get to the updated, or start reviewing the updated PFM data tables that are in the original recovery plan dated 2022. I suspect we're not going to get to that. Nonetheless, I want to just run some things past you as we've had various deliberations here within the district. Some things have come up. And again, we've got to prioritize, we've got to focus, and we've got to be able to mobilize whatever the initiatives are going to be. Because it makes no sense. It doesn't do anybody any good to have things on paper that, first of all, we just can't operationalize. There's no interest or what have you. It's going to be fluid in terms of our needs, but we have to best gauge where we are right now and where we may be in the near future so that we address those. So I'm just going to read straight from the agenda. So the first one references the local threat assessment team protocols and practices. Again, I thank Northgate for loaning Dr. Christina Garteski to our team here. In my experience that I had last spring at the school district, it was amazing what she did and how she incorporated the school psychologist and so forth. So I did ask for the collaboration. Our people here gave very positive feedback. Certainly safety is a theme in the recovery plan, and it needs to remain as such. And anyone, please stop me along the way as I mention these. Also, shared services. There are so many contractors here right now. We've talked about that, or I mentioned that in the last meeting. It's hard to discern who's doing what, who reports to whom. And in some cases, we've had administrators being directed by consultants, and that really is not what is intended. We're supposed to guide what we need, and people are supposed to deliver specific services. And of course, there has to be some semblance of accountability, especially when you're paying for services. Are they being delivered? Are these services improving the student experience, the staff experience, and so forth? And you can see what we're looking at for as early as next year would be federal programs oversight. Right now, as I mentioned last month, one of our principals is doing dual role, serving as a principal, so in charge of teacher evaluations, student behavior, discipline, parent contacts, and then also running federal programs. That's just not realistic. So I want to get some support in there. PIMS, that's another contracted services. Access, we are doing it internally, and I'm not sure that we're capturing all the dollars that could be used here to support some of the essentials in the district. More clearly defined job titles, job descriptions, and updated org chart. Again, the IU has the capacity to help with that. They've expressed interest. They've been very gracious. We've asked for a whole lot. And so we're going to have some follow-up conversations. Pre-K pilot at the primary center, that is in the original recovery plan, page 111 in particular. And there were some notes here that I inherited that said the district wasn't necessarily interested in doing that. I don't know that that makes sense. So that's something that, you know, I'm thinking could benefit the district, having children experience the primary center before they're actually enrolled in kindergarten might make families feel more comfortable with keeping their children at that site. And so we're in conversations with the IU about that. This is one that is a really a hard one for me. I'm a former curriculum director at one point in my career. Mm-hmm. We're struggling to identify comprehensive curriculum. We have teachers that are using what has been made available to them, and in many cases they're filling in gaps. We can do a better job administratively, giving more guidance, more structure to that process. So we are having a kickoff that will be tomorrow. We have Dr. Jill Jacoby visiting us, and we have asked our teachers union to designate one teacher from each of the 3 schools to join us. No administrators are going to be there. I'll be sitting there. Dr. Sofa will be there, Mr. Hauser, but we want a really honest conversation. What do you have? What do you need? What are the gaps? And I have a feeling it's going to be a long list of needs. So we have got to get the ball rolling on that. Also, something else that we've been told by the principals, that they're managing multiple technology platforms. So when they're entering data, whether it's student discipline or student attendance or parent notes, they are using multiple sources. So there's so much redundancy. They're typing things twice, 3 times. They have to pull from 3 different systems, 3 different passcodes. That should not be. And we did have a very meaningful appointment last Friday with a representative from the IU. And he talked to us about the possibility of maybe following a phased approach, maybe go from 9 to 6. We kind of discussed that with our middle school, high school principals today, and they were really excited about that possibility. Again, we want to increase their efficiency and productivity, but also give them more time to be instructional leaders, out in the classrooms, meeting with kids, building relationships, instead of sitting behind a computer and trying to type or retrieve data. We also have been talking about the need for a summer program, and you know, what's listed on the agenda is really a sad state of affairs. It really bothers me as an educator when you consider that our students have not, last school year, not one student was proficient in the algebra Keystone exam. We have to do better with that. We know there are barriers, but we've got to find a better, a different way to tackle that. So we're proposing a pilot program this summer, and it would have a multifaceted function. So Algebra 1 credit recovery, maybe there could be 45 kids in there that didn't pass, need a refresher. That would be one focus, academic. And then there would be the other focus of safety. You know, if the students are not otherwise in school during the summer, where are they? What are they doing? What's the level of supervision? Are they eating? Are they getting physical activity, or are they on their phones? So that would incorporate that concern and address it. And then also enrichment, maybe having some really fun things to do with the kids. Shamari Phelps, our very dynamic athletic director, has said, hey, I'll have an open gym. I'll facilitate that. You know, wouldn't that be better than sitting at home on the phone? Maybe going to a museum. And so Director Culliver was kind enough to sign off on the application we sent to the Grable Foundation. There is a possibility they would fund half of it. We think it might cost around $51,000. But putting this into the recovery plan, it's more than just addressing this year. We have to be mindful. We have to be data informed. When we see patterns and trends, we have to stop and we have to address them. Root cause analysis. Why is this happening? The IU's role could be, and we talked about this with our union leadership. Maria's on the call here with us today about, you know, we'd want to do it differently. We want to have the representatives from the Math Science Collaborative almost use the school as an action research site. What are the best known practices in algebra instruction? Training our teachers who would be the teachers for the summer. We would give first right of refusal to our teachers. If there wasn't any interest, we would post it outside. There would be rigorous training. We would want the Math Science Collaborative representatives to come in and visit when instruction is occurring, give very good, honest feedback so we can be at our best. And let's see what the outcome is. See if we can get many, hopefully, students proficient on the Algebra Keystone next year. And I'm not about teaching to a test. I want to be really clear about that. But it is a definite black eye for the district. And if you're a parent looking to where to send your child, that is very, very discouraging. We have got to turn that around. We have the capacity to do it. And we're going to figure out a better way to do what we've been doing. Any questions on any of those on the list of IU supports that we would anticipate? Okay. Another idea, the looping in the house pilot. We reached out to the IU and we said, who is doing that? We want to know. And Dr. Sofo actually asked Dr. Shear, the executive director there, to launch a survey among the superintendents, about 40 of them in the county. Is anybody using this? So far, we know that Allegheny Valley, Shaler, Duquesne City, and we found out most recently that Baldwin is using that. So we need to put together some visits so that we can have our people, our team, take a look. I think one of the things that has adversely affected the district is operating in a silo, thinking that we have all the answers, maybe feeling that it's a sign of weakness to say, we don't know. Can you teach us? Do you have a better way? And I really feel like that should be a collegial, collaborative process that is organically grown. Just having conversations with people. I have an interest in whatever it is, and then we work together to connect them with somebody that's already doing that. Why recreate the wheel? We have to network, and then we give back, right? So as we do things better and we have data to support what we're doing to show, hey, it works, then we share those practices with our colleagues in the other districts. There was also an article, if you're interested, in the February 9th Tribune Review, and it was about Greensburg-Salem. And this all, I guess, comes from the Ron Clark Academy. I know that Northgate sent a crew there this past summer, and our middle school, high school principals were really excited about what they're doing in their version of that. Here's another one, school start times. In the recovery plan, there's references to student attendance, punctuality, and so forth. We know that current data suggests that there are at least 60 students who arrive late to school here at the middle school and the high school. Again, we have an obligation. We know what the data say. We can't ignore it. We have to do something to address it. And maybe adjusting school start times is a way to do that. I don't know that we would want to put in an amendment that we're mandating that, but I think there has to be careful consideration of that, especially when you look at the research for that age group. Teenagers are known to produce higher levels when they have a later start, but that doesn't happen in isolation. That certainly does impact elementary start times and so forth. So I wouldn't suggest let's jump into it, but I think it's worth further review. And the studies that I've read said that the attendance and punctuality definitely improves once you adopt this. The next one, we talked about it, or I mentioned it in the last meeting, return to the one-to-one tech device initiative. And we need a well-defined replenishment cycle. The problem is, how do you fund it? It is very, very, very costly. And it's been really interesting to hear Dr. Sofo's perspective from his experience in a setting that relied heavily on students having their own device issued to them. There has to be procedure. There have to be procedures in place. People understand and appreciate what they're given, and they have to manage that, and there have to be checks and balances. And so I'm not suggesting in any way that we would want to just give everybody a device and go from there. That whole thing has to be broken down and launched in a very appropriate and hopefully effective way. But the funding, I'm going to have to help. I'm going to work with the JMA folks to see if we can find some funding to support that. Also, just a few more there, a more formal career prep pathway to include personal finance and annual graduation audits. Wouldn't it be great as early as 9th grade, you're looking at what you have to take and you're checking it off, you have a score sheet. So those are things that would be interesting. Also, the recovery plan talks about exit interviews for staff, but it doesn't talk about students. I had the opportunity in a district where I work where we did senior surveys, and we embedded them in the English curriculum, and they did it. The seniors completed the surveys in the fourth quarter of the year. At that point, they have nothing to lose. You hope that they're honest. They're anonymous. You can manage it very easily with technology, a Google Doc, Google Survey, And then I would share the results with the staff. And then the questions can be, gosh, very broad, such as, what do you remember from your experience here? Like, what did you read that was really impactful? Maybe a poem, maybe a novel. Is there somebody here in this school system that you feel you might be able to reach out to after you graduate if you find yourself in crisis or you need help and support? And I think it will be really telling for us in terms of the school experience. You know, as adults, we think one thing, oh, we're doing a good job. And in many cases we are, but there are those kids who are falling through the cracks, and we need to, again, do root cause analysis, find out why, where did we fall short? Also,
Dr. Rabel,
yeah,
can you correct me if I'm wrong, but the students, if I'm not mistaken, they do this, but we were told before that we can't formally request it from the students as far as, that was by the previous CRO. So I know what the principals and the admin, what they do now is when they're leaving, the seniors, they have like these big like boards with like big white paper, and they have questions on top of them, and asking, the 5 questions like, what will you remember, what was your experience, or what was your pro, what was your con, basically. And I know they have been doing that before, because we asked for that, but according to the previous CRO, and if it's wrong, it's wrong, but that we couldn't formally request it from the students. Is that accurate? Because we asked for the ones who were graduating and for the ones who were transferring.
you know what? I know in the district that I worked most recently, we did family surveys. So when you were withdrawing, we asked the families, we couldn't force them, but we asked them to complete a survey, and those came to my office as the superintendent, and I would review them and give the board updates on those. In terms of a senior survey, I don't know. I was never told no. When we refined the model, as I said, it was embedded in the English curriculum. It was simply pass, fail. All you have to do is open it up and you pass. And, if you refuse to open it up, then you would fail that particular assignment. That was never challenged, but I'll talk to the principals here and find out.
I like that.
Okay. Yeah, I thought it was really, it was sad, and to be honest, I gave a graduation speech the one year, and I apologized to the kids that we failed, because they told us that. And there were a lot of glowing, though, remarks too. So I don't want to scare anybody. It's anonymous. No names were allowed. Even if they wanted to highlight a staff member or what have you, that bit of information was redacted. Nobody ever saw that. So, it's a good way. The kids being anonymous, they're on their way out the door. They can really give feedback to inform what needs to be done.
Yes, ma'am. I like the way you put it in the curriculum like that. I like it a lot.
An extra credit.
Yeah, we'll see, and we'll ask.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, we'll ask here what the possibilities are, and then remember what I'm reading to you. This is just a list of initiatives that I see that I think really could help improve some things pretty quickly. Formulate a reasonable PRT conversion timeline. The current the original, I guess I should say, recovery plan references exploration. Well, that really doesn't have any teeth in it. I think that we have to think about it. We've had, Dr. Stoffel and I, and Mr. Hauser, myself, have had some preliminary conversations with PRT, a PRT representative. And they do have a program out there that schools are starting to participate in. And when I say schools, it's the K-12 public school in some cases, but also colleges and universities. And the school will buy the pass, and it is a fraction of what you would pay off the street for a pass. It is a monthly 24/7 pass, and we know the buses don't run, generally after midnight or what have you, but I'll use the terminology 24/7, and it also extends into the summer. So there are a lot of benefits, especially for older kids, given that we have the bus stop right down over the hill. We had a conversation today with representatives from ABC Transit, and we were talking about using or incorporating the feature from TransFinder that allows you to have GPS capacity, so the families would have an app and so forth. And they're agreeable to help us with a pilot of that, maybe starting with one bus here at the end of the school year, fourth quarter, and then extending that, maybe using the summer program if we can get that up and running. So I said to them, well, what if we started looking at a small pilot and we started introducing PRT passes for a select population of students? And ABC Transit said, yeah, that could help us. So I don't want to get into too many details right now because this is only preliminary. We are dreaming at this point, but we have to dream. And I've asked for PRT to respond to what ABC Transit thinks that they would support. So we'll see. There's more information coming, but I'm a little bit concerned about leaving something like that in print as saying, explore. I think we need to have some more teeth so that we force ourselves to move forward, even if it's something that we say we don't have the capacity right now to support. It's something that's important. We want to keep it in the tickler file and keep revisiting it. Anybody want to give any remarks, comments to anything that I read from that list of potential content items for an amendment to the current financial recovery plan?
The last thing you mentioned, did you say that it'd be an app for parents to kind of track the buses? Is that what you said? An app to track? I remember talking about this, but is that what you just said though? You said it would be like an app for parents to kind of like track the buses?
Yes.
Like
So
where they're at?
yeah. So if you remember, and I don't remember the date, so I hope your memory's better than mine.
Yeah, I remember talking about it.
Yeah, we were in a board conversation and somebody asked about a GPS feature when we were shifting to TransFinder. So the board has authorized use of the TransFinder software to help with the navigation of the buses, who's going to go where and so forth, how we group them, what times to get pickup and that kind of thing. So that's new and different, and that will improve efficiency. Somebody from the board then said, hey, what about the GPS feature? Can parents use the app? Some districts do have that feature. Sandy here did research. She found out that it costs a little bit more. I believe the board authorized that. And so we then talked to ABC Transit. Okay, how do we operationalize this? Our board has authorized it. We see the benefit. They're concerned, and it makes sense. They don't want to start large scale. They want to start with a model, a pilot of one bus. Let's try to get that right, and then we'll keep expanding, and then we'll include all of the buses by the end of next school year. So fourth quarter of this year, they would launch it with one bus. Summer, that program, if it gets funded, we'll be able to use that. Yeah, an ESY, dabble in that, get it better, hone, refine, and then maybe a few more buses, one or two, and then have the whole fleet that services, the school district then equipped so that the parents can get on the app, find out where the buses are and so forth. So they want to start small and build up. So yeah. So
I remember talking about that. Did we ever? I don't remember if it was an astronaut, but did we ever ask the question, or is this expressed a concern with safety as far as the app falling like into the wrong hands? In a district, I hate to say it, but in a district where we have a lot of offenders in our district, you know what I mean? Did we talk about if the safety, if like the app fell like into the wrong hands or whatnot, and how we can quickly deactivate it or whatnot?
Yeah. So how ironic. I don't remember hearing that from board members. However, today ABC Transit asked about that and said, how would you manage it? Apparently you can change you can adjust the features so that the people who are allowed to see where your child is and the movement, that has to be updated every 30, 60, 90 days, whatever the district would be comfortable with. So even within families, that there's fragments, there's things that happen domestically, and maybe somebody who was in the household isn't in the household anymore, and you don't want them seeing where the child is. So those renewals or refreshers can be set according to a timer, and that person would be blocked out unless they were renewed.
And each parent would only have access, or a guardian, to their child's bus. They don't get to see the whole fleet. And if we find out that somebody has left or changed, or there's a concern, domestic PFM or whatever, PFA, that we can
disable maybe?
Disable their registration so they would not have access to the app.
And I guess I meant like, do we know if there's like a login to the app, like a Face ID to the app? Like, do we know that at all?
Yeah, so there's a subscription, they call it. So you would have to sign up, and then again, there would be that refresher. You would lose access, just like renewing your password or what have you.
But I mean, so like I can't just pick up the phone, open the phone, and open the app, right? Like I have to log into the app basically, or every time, or like Face ID into the app. Does that make sense at all?
Yeah, you will have to have a ID number to get into the app. No, that app just can't go on anybody's phone and they can go see it. You would have to sign up and register as the parent or guardian of record.
See, Melissa.
I think we're talking about two different things for the most part. I'm talking about, for example, if I have the app on my phone, I lose my phone, someone gains access to my phone, can they just open the app, or would they have to
Log in.
put log in, like put a code or Face ID? Like, do you know? Someone has their hand raised. I don't know if they have answered that.
Yeah,
but,
we'll find out. But Melissa, do you have information on that?
Hi, everyone. We don't use that, but we just started this year at Propel using EverDriven, which Pittsburgh Public Schools uses them, and they have the app. And so, I mean, I'll tell you, we've had great success. And so parents have to have a code. So yes, there's an app, but there's a code that they have to get it. And then it's only directed or connected to like their child. Now, I think to answer Mr. Culliver's question about like if you lost your phone and somebody, I mean, unfortunately, yeah, maybe, but they'd have to also be able to get into your screen too. But we haven't had the parents that are using it, and we have like young kids, elementary school students, and parents have been very pleased with having the ability of the app to track where their child is.
So if your screen is locked, they wouldn't be able to get in, but if your screen is unlocked, potentially, yeah.
Right. And like nobody, like you just can't anybody can just put the app and see where every single bus or whatever is. So.
Okay. Any other questions? Go ahead.
I think it's like a lot of pros for that. I was just wondering though.
Okay. No, that's good. That's the purpose of this committee, to vet things and think. I can't think of everything. Ron can't think of everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we work together as a team. Well, we have exceeded our hour. So I think we could expect for our next meeting on March 26th at 4:00 that we will start to dig through the PFM data tables. You know, I've been previewing them as they've been coming in, and some of them are pretty compelling. But we want that information to factor into whatever this final recommendation is for an amendment to the current financial recovery plan. So thank you for joining us this evening. Any final comments, remarks that you need to make? Okay. All right. Thank you so much. And I'll see you in a month.